Hello, everyone. My name is Brian, and welcome back to our Tableau series, where we're recreating the dashboards, the sample dashboards that Tableau gives us. Um, Remember, as a disclaimer, this is our interpretation of what Tableau was trying to do. So we may not follow everything exactly, but using our logic, we will show you how to create these dashboards. So let's jump in with our shipping dashboard. That's what we're going to be creating today. The first thing I want to show you, obviously, is the data source that we're working with. So if I come over here, we're working with our sample superstore data, and we're using all three sheets. So just to show you guys how I set it up, I had my orders sheet. I can drag people to create that relationship. And then for returns, I can just put it right underneath, and it should come out just like this. So once you have this set up, we're going to go to sheet 1, where before we start creating the viz, we want to make 3 calculated fields. And there's going to be 2 measures, and we're going to use those 2 measures to create a dimension calculated field that we're going to use in our viz. So to create a calculated field, I'm going to go to this drop-down menu, find create calculated field, and we're going to call this one days to ship scheduled. So as a reminder, we are making the shipping dashboard, and the purpose of this dashboard is to get an overview of the performance of our shipping, seeing if we're meeting the deadlines or if we're not. So for days to ship scheduled, we're going to use a case function to create this field. So I'm going to use case. I'll tab into the function, and now I just need to pick the field that I want to use for the calculation, which is going to be ship mode. And so we're going to enter down here. So when I look at ship mode, I'm going to bring up the data for us. There's 4 members. There's first class, same day, second class, standard class. So the case function is allowing us to assign this string, right, first class, as a string variable, and we're going to assign it to an integer, essentially a value. So if I get out of here, I'm going to use when as part of our case function. So when it is same day, right, that's one of our members in the ship mode, then it's going to be equal to 0, right? Because if it's shipped in the same day, it's going to take 0 days to get there. So when it is first class, make sure you capitalize, then it is going to be equal to 1 day. Furthermore, when it is second class, then it is going to be equal to 3 days. And lastly, when it is standard class, then it will be equal to 6 days. I'm just going to make sure that these are all indented properly. And then once we have all the indents proper, we're going to use the end function to finish off our calculation. We know it's valid, so we'll click OK. And it's going to pop over here in the data pane. We know it's a calculated field because it has that equal sign right next to the hashtag. So we have one calculated field. Let's make the second one. So come back here, create calculated field. And this is going to be days to ship actual. Okay, so for this, we want to find the differential in the days that the customer ordered the product, and then to when it was actually shipped. So we wanted to give it to us in the day as a day instead of like a week or a month. So we're going to use the date diff function, standing for date differential. So for our date part, we're actually going to put day and single quotation marks because we want it to return that value as a day. And for our start date, that is when they ordered it. So it's going to be order date. And for our end date, that is going to be the ship date. Perfect. So our calculation is valid. I'm going to click OK. Okay, so we have two measures, and now we're going to use these two measures to create our dimension calculated field. So if I find calculated field again, we are going to call this one ship status. And what this is going to be equal to, or we're actually going to use an if statement here. So we used a case statement in the days to ship scheduled to assign a string to an integer. But we're going to use an if statement in the ship status because we're actually going to compare these two measures, the actual to scheduled, to assign it to a string. So we're going to do if days to ship actual is greater than days to ship scheduled. So if it actually took longer than we thought it would, then it's going to be equal to shipped late, right? So then we're going to use else, forgive me, it's going to be else if days to ship actual is equal to days to ship scheduled, then it is going to be equal to shipped on time. Else, the last criteria we have here is going to be days to ship actual is less than days to ship scheduled, then it's going to be shipped early. Perfect. So we have this. We're just going to close it out with that end function. Perfect. So our calculation is valid. So when we click OK, we're going to find it in the data pane as a dimension, like I said. And it's a calculated field, we know, because it got that equal sign next to it. So we have all the calculated fields. Now it's time to jump into our first worksheet, which is going to be a tree map.